Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely massive, the awe-inspiring framework of the Indian Constitution. If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of articles, parts, and schedules in this thing, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to take hundreds of complex, historical facts and distill them down into a clear, masterclass-style blueprint. So let's jump right in.
To kick things off, I've got a quick question for you. Considering the sheer, unimaginable scale of India, its incredible diversity, massive population, and complex history, how long do you think it took to actually draft its ultimate rulebook? Take a guess. Building a nation's foundation from absolute scratch is, well, no small feat. To avoid total cognitive overload, we're going to explore this supreme document exactly like a grand building, chunking it into 5 simple buckets: the foundation, the blueprint, the soul, the pillars, and finally, the renovations.
All right, Part 1, the foundation, history, and making.
Here's the answer to that trivia question from a minute ago. It took exactly 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days of rigorous debate, meticulous drafting, and endless revisions. I mean, think about it. Sometimes it takes longer to build a modern highway. Synthesizing a nation's supreme rule book in under 3 years is a deeply deliberate yet incredibly impressive piece of nation building.
So, who actually pulled this off? Operating under the 1946 Cabinet Mission Plan, we had some brilliant architects laying the groundwork. Dr. Rajendra Prasad served as the permanent president of the Assembly, with B.N. Rao acting as the crucial constitutional advisor. But the monumental task of writing the actual text? That fell to the drafting committee, brilliantly headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar.
The final document was adopted on November 26, 1949, and officially implemented on January 26, 1950, which, by the way, is exactly why Republic Day is celebrated on that date. And what's fascinating is how much this living document has grown. It originally contained 22 parts and 8 schedules, but today, it's expanded to 12 schedules and over 25 parts, stretching to fit a rapidly growing modern nation.
Moving right along to Part 2, the blueprint, foreign sources.
The framers were incredibly pragmatic. They didn't try to reinvent the wheel, right? They just borrowed the absolute best features from around the globe. They looked to Britain for the parliamentary system and single citizenship. They turned to the USA for fundamental rights and judicial review. Ireland gave us the directive principles of state policy. From Germany's Weimar Republic, they took the rules on suspending rights during an emergency. And from the USSR, they brought in fundamental duties and economic 5-year plans. It's like a giant, brilliant puzzle.
But amidst all those international influences, you can't forget this crucial detail. The bedrock was actually domestic. The Government of India Act of 1935 had the most profound, single largest impact on the final structure of the entire document.
Okay, Section 3, the soul, rights, duties, and the preamble.
The preamble is universally recognized as the literal soul of the document. By kicking off with those powerful words, "We, the people of India," it establishes one absolute truth. True sovereign power doesn't sit with a king or a dictator. It sits entirely and completely with you, the citizens. Now, while the preamble is the soul of the whole document, Dr. Ambedkar actually used the exact phrase, the heart and soul of the Constitution, to describe something very specific. Article 32. That's the right to constitutional remedies. Why? Because simply writing down a list of rights is completely meaningless unless you, the citizen, have a direct, powerful way to enforce them in the Supreme Court.
Think of this next part as the ultimate contract between you and the state. Part 3 guarantees your fundamental rights, currently 6 of them, and yes, they are legally enforceable. Part 4 outlines directive principles, which are basically welfare guidelines for the government to follow, though you can't sue over them. And Part 4A, which was added later, lists your 11 fundamental duties. It's this perfect balancing act of what you get, what the state should do, and what you owe in return.
On to Section 4, the pillars: Parliament, the executive, and the judiciary.
Inside the legislature, there are some very intentional differences. On one hand, you've got the Lok Sabha, the dynamic House of the People. Members have 5-year terms, and the House itself can be dissolved. On the other hand, you have the steadying presence of the Rajya Sabha, the upper house. This one is a permanent body that absolutely cannot be dissolved, and its members serve longer, 6-year terms. Then there's the executive branch, which operates as a sort of dual system. The president acts as the constitutional head and the first citizen, but the prime minister is the real executive head, wielding the actual day-to-day administrative power. Backing up the prime minister is the Council of Ministers, who are all collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha.
But what happens when these pillars face a metaphorical earthquake?
Well, the president has the extraordinary power to declare 3 distinct types of emergencies, which essentially shifts the nation into a unitary structure. You have Article 352 for a national emergency, like war. Article 356 allows for president's rule if a state's machinery completely fails. And Article 360 is for financial emergencies, which, amazingly, has never actually had to be used.
Beyond the main pillars, we have these vital support beams, the independent bodies. The Supreme Court stands as the ultimate guardian of your fundamental rights. The Election Commission ensures our democracy actually functions via free elections. The CAG guards the public purse, basically making sure money is spent right, and the Attorney General acts as the highest law officer in the land. Together, they make sure everyone plays strictly by the rules.
And finally, Section 5, Renovations, Key Amendments.
You know, a building from 1950 just can't survive without updates. Tracing this timeline is literally like watching modern history unfold. The First Amendment in 1951 kicked things off by adding the Ninth Schedule. Then you have the massive 42nd Amendment in 1976, which added words like socialist, secular, and integrity to the preamble. In 1978, the 44th Amendment actually removed the right to property as a fundamental right. In 1989, the 61st Amendment lowered the voting age to 18, bringing millions of young people into the democratic process. And skipping ahead to 2017, the 101st Amendment totally revolutionized the economy with the GST framework.
Now, if you are focusing your learning or maybe prepping for an exam, these specific articles are absolute gold. They're totally foundational to modern rights. Article 17 abolishes untouchability. Article 21A guarantees free and compulsory education. Article 40 mandates the organization of village panchayats, promoting local self-government. And Article 368 is kind of the ultimate meta rule. It defines the exact procedure for amending the Constitution itself.
We have covered incredible ground today. Now that you've seen the blueprint, explored the massive pillars, and really understood the living soul of the Indian Constitution, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. Which part of this massive framework, whether it's a specific fundamental rights, the voting process, or the balance of power, actually impacts your daily life the most? Think about that as you go about your day. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.